They called Earth a primitive world. They laughed when one human diplomat asked for the Galactic Throne. Exactly 72 hours later, every alien emperor was kneeling before him. Not because humanity had won a war. Not because Earth had built a bigger fleet. But because one forgotten sentence, written over 12 million years ago, had just become law again. And the galaxy realized, they had never been ruling themselves. For over 10 million years, the Galactic Council had governed known space. Thousands of civilizations, millions of worlds, trillions of lives, one government, one law, one throne. Every empire dreamed of controlling it. None ever did, because according to history, the original founders had vanished forever. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. Earth entered the galactic community only 31 years earlier. To the ancient races, humans were painfully ordinary. No legendary fleet, no impossible technology, no ancient empire, just another young species trying to find its place among the stars. Then came the announcement that shocked the galaxy. Humanity had officially requested a permanent seat on the Galactic Council. The response was immediate. News channels laughed, military analysts laughed, even school children across distant worlds laughed. The humans, they haven't even explored 1% of the galaxy. They're asking to stand beside civilizations millions of years older than themselves. For 3 straight days, the entire galaxy mocked Earth. Then, the hearing began. The Grand Council chamber was completely full. More than 4,000 civilizations watched in person. Billions more watched the live broadcast. The massive golden doors slowly opened. 5 human delegates walked inside. No soldiers, no weapons, no royal clothing. Leading them was a man wearing nothing more than a simple black suit. His name was Elias Ward. Most delegates ignored him. Some didn't even bother hiding their smiles. The Chancellor leaned forward. So, this is humanity. I expected more. The chamber erupted with laughter. Elias didn't react. His heartbeat never changed. His expression never changed. He simply waited. The Chancellor activated a giant hologram. Earth's military ranking appeared. Near the bottom, economic influence. Near the bottom, political authority, almost non-existent. Scientific influence, respectable, but far from extraordinary. The Chancellor smiled. After careful review, the Galactic Council has reached its decision. Every camera focused on Elias. Waiting for disappointment, waiting for anger, waiting for history. The Council officially classifies Earth as a primitive civilization. Thunderous applause exploded across the chamber. Several ambassadors stood to celebrate. Others openly mocked the human delegation. One alien senator laughed so hard he could barely breathe. Then, Elias finally moved. Not toward the Chancellor, not toward the cameras. He walked slowly, toward the empty galactic throne. The entire chamber became quiet. No outsider had ever approached it. For millions of years, the throne had remained untouched. Guarded, respected, forgotten. Elias gently placed one hand on its ancient armrest. Nothing happened. The laughter returned. Then, a single blue light appeared beneath his hand. One, then another, then hundreds. Ancient symbols began spreading across the throne. The room fell silent. The Chancellor stood up instantly. Step away from the throne. Elias calmly looked at him. Then spoke only one sentence. I wasn't asking for a seat. A long silence followed. Before he finished, I'm here to see who has been sitting in mine. At that exact moment, the throne awakened. For the first time, in 12 million years, the throne awakened. A deep blue light erupted beneath Elias Ward's hand. The entire council chamber shook. Not from an explosion, but from something far older. Something alive. Ancient symbols raced across the silver throne. One after another, forgotten runes illuminated the chamber. Every ambassador stared in complete disbelief. The Chancellor's voice echoed through the hall. Security, remove him immediately. Elite royal guards rushed toward the throne. They never reached it. An invisible force stopped them only a few steps away. Their weapons shut down. Their armor lost power. One by one, they fell to one knee. Not by choice, by command. Panic spread across the chamber. What is happening? Why aren't they moving? The throne is controlling them. Elias never moved. His hand remained resting on the ancient armrest. His eyes remained fixed on the chamber. Completely calm. Then, the throne spoke. Its voice wasn't loud, but every living being heard it. Inside their mind, identity verification, processing, complete silence. Every heartbeat in the chamber seemed to stop. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Then, the voice returned. Genetic signature. Confirmed. The Chancellor laughed nervously. This is impossible. He's hacking the system. Shut it down. Council engineers tried everything. Nothing responded. The throne had disconnected itself from every modern network. It wasn't using today's technology. It was operating on something far older, far beyond anything the galaxy understood. Then another message echoed across the chamber. Keeper protocol, recognized. Several elderly ambassadors suddenly stood. One of them dropped his ceremonial staff. No, it can't be, another whispered with trembling lips. The Keepers, I thought they were only a myth. The Chancellor turned toward them. What are you talking about? An elderly historian slowly stepped forward. His voice shook with fear. Millions of years ago, the Founders never ruled the galaxy. They protected it, and they created one order. The Keepers, one bloodline, one responsibility, to protect the throne, until the Founders returned. The room became deathly silent. The Chancellor shook his head. Then why does the throne recognize a human? The old historian looked directly at Elias. Tears filled his eyes. Because the Keepers disappeared with humanity. At that exact moment, a hidden compartment opened inside the throne. A small crystal sphere slowly floated into the air. It stopped directly in front of Elias. Without hesitation, he reached out and held it. The sphere immediately transformed into a massive hologram. A woman appeared. She wore silver armor unlike anything in the modern galaxy. Behind her, thousands of stars burned across an ancient sky. She looked directly at every ambassador. If you are seeing this message, then the Keepers have returned. My name is Empress Lyra. I speak on behalf of the Founders. 12 million years ago, we left this galaxy to stop a war beyond its borders. We entrusted the throne to the only species we believed would never seek power for itself. The hologram slowly turned, looking directly at Elias. The human Keepers. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. The Chancellor stumbled backward. His face had turned pale. This cannot be real. The hologram continued. If humanity stands before the throne again, it means only one thing. We have failed. A heavy silence followed. Then the Empress spoke 6 words. The Devourers are coming home. Every ancient ambassador froze. One elderly emperor collapsed into his chair. His lips trembled. No, they're still alive. The hologram disappeared. The blue lights faded. The chamber remained completely silent. Nobody cared about the throne anymore. Nobody cared about humanity's council seat. Because every civilization had just learned. The greatest war in history had never actually ended. Not a single person spoke. For nearly 30 seconds, the Galactic Council chamber remained completely silent. The name, the Devourers, had erased every argument, every insult, every laugh. The Chancellor looked around in confusion. What are the Devourers? No one answered. Not because they didn't want to. Because those old enough to remember were terrified. An elderly emperor slowly stood. His entire body was shaking. I was only a child. When my grandfather told me the forbidden story, he made me swear never to repeat it. The Chancellor turned toward him. Then speak. The old emperor swallowed hard. 12 million years ago, the galaxy wasn't divided into empires. It was united. There was no Galactic Council. No borders. No wars. Because one civilization kept the peace. He slowly looked at Elias. The human Keepers. The entire chamber froze. Another ambassador immediately interrupted. No, humans weren't rulers. They weren't kings. They weren't conquerors. They were something far more dangerous. They carried the Founders' authority. The Chancellor laughed. If that's true, why did humanity disappear? Elias finally answered. For the first time, his voice carried emotion. Because protecting the galaxy required a sacrifice. No one understood. Elias slowly walked away from the throne. Every ambassador instinctively stepped aside. No guards tried to stop him. No weapons were raised. Fear had replaced authority. Elias stopped in the center of the chamber. Then quietly said, 12 million years ago, the founders knew they couldn't defeat the Devourers forever. They could only delay them. So they left, to fight beyond the edge of known space. And humanity stayed behind, to protect everything they left behind. The room became silent again. One young senator frowned. If humans were protecting us, then why didn't anyone know? Elias smiled sadly. Because good guardians are forgotten. They don't seek statues. They don't seek glory. They simply do their duty. Several ambassadors lowered their heads. For the first time, they felt ashamed. For decades, they had mocked humanity, called them primitive, weak, irrelevant. Yet all this time, the species they insulted had been carrying the greatest responsibility in galactic history. Suddenly, the throne interrupted. A calm mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. Priority alert. Outer Sentinel network destroyed. Every screen instantly changed. The galaxy disappeared. A distant region beyond known space appeared instead. Thousands of blue defense stations were exploding one after another. Each station had survived for over 12 million years. Each one was falling within seconds. The room filled with horror. An admiral whispered, "Impossible. Nothing can destroy Sentinel stations." Then, something appeared on the screen. At first, it looked like darkness. But the darkness moved. It swallowed stars. Entire solar systems vanished behind it. Millions of ships, flying together as one endless fleet. Nobody could count them. Nobody could measure them. The computer tried anyway. Then stopped. Error. Fleet size exceeds calculation limits. The Chancellor slowly stepped backward. His voice barely escaped. How long? Until they reach us. The throne answered immediately. Estimated arrival, 72 hours. The same number. The same deadline. The same 72 hours. Humanity had asked the Council to wait. Only now, everyone finally understood why. Elias looked across the silent chamber. Then spoke one sentence. The same sentence his family had repeated. For over 12 million years. The throne was never our reward. It was our burden. And for the first time, every civilization realized, humanity had never returned to claim power. They had returned, because the galaxy had run out of time. No one moved. No one spoke. For the first time in galactic history, every emperor, every admiral, every ruler, looked toward a human for guidance. The Chancellor slowly lowered his head. His voice had lost all arrogance. What do we do now? Elias remained silent for several seconds. Then he answered, we stop acting like separate civilizations. We become one. The words echoed across the chamber. Some leaders nodded, others hesitated. Old rivalries, ancient hatred, thousands of years of war, could not disappear in a single moment. Then, the throne interrupted. Warning, outer defense ring, destroyed. Another section of the galaxy disappeared from the star map. The darkness was moving faster. Much faster. Entire civilizations were vanishing. Without distress calls. Without battles. Without survivors. One alien queen covered her mouth. They're not conquering worlds. They're erasing them. Fear spread through the chamber. Not fear of humanity. Fear of extinction. Elias slowly stepped toward the throne. He placed both hands on its ancient armrests. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, the entire galaxy lit up. Millions of forgotten structures awakened. Ancient shipyards hidden inside dead stars powered on. Planet-sized factories buried beneath abandoned moons opened for the first time in 12 million years. Gigantic defense platforms emerged from black space. Every civilization watched in disbelief. The founders hadn't left behind weapons. They had left behind hope. The throne spoke once more. Final Keeper authorization accepted. Supreme command transferred. Keeper Elias Ward. The chamber remained silent. The title wasn't Emperor. It wasn't King. It wasn't Supreme Ruler. It was Keeper. Exactly as the founders intended. The Chancellor looked at Elias. The galaxy is yours now. Elias slowly shook his head. No, it never was. The galaxy belongs to everyone who is willing to protect it. Those words echoed across every world. Across every fleet. Across every home. Then, a transmission arrived. Not from Earth. Not from the Council. From the edge of the galaxy. The screen flickered. Static filled the room. A damaged human voice finally broke through. This is Expedition Fleet Alpha. We've been fighting the Founders' war for 12 million years. Silence. Every person stopped breathing. The voice continued. We can only hold them for 19 more minutes. The transmission ended. The chamber froze. One young ambassador whispered, "They're still alive." Elias closed his eyes. For the first time, the calm diplomat disappeared. A son, waiting 12 million years for his family, stood before the galaxy. When he opened his eyes again, there was no hesitation, only purpose. He looked toward every civilization. This is your choice. You can protect only your own worlds and die alone, or stand beside humanity and fight as one galaxy. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then, an elderly emperor stood. I fought humans once. I won't make that mistake again. He saluted. A queen stood next. Then an admiral. Then another emperor. Within moments, thousands of leaders stood together. Not because humanity had defeated them. Because humanity had inspired them. The throne released one final command. United Galactic Defense. Activated. Across the galaxy, millions of ships changed formation. Old enemies now flew side by side. The greatest alliance in history had just been born. Elias looked toward the endless darkness beyond the stars. Then quietly smiled. They called us primitive. They laughed when we asked for the throne. But the throne was never the destination. It was only the responsibility. The camera slowly pulled away. The united fleet stretched across countless star systems. Waiting, preparing, standing together. Then, far beyond the edge of known space, two enormous golden lights opened inside the darkness. Not stars, eyes, watching, waiting, and as the screen faded to black, one final sentence appeared. The first war has ended. The last war is about to begin. Thanks for watching. If you love epic sci-fi stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to HFY Sci-Fi for more unforgettable adventures across the galaxy. See you in the next story.